Hello everybody. In this video, we will try to discuss Magha Nakshatra. Magha Nakshatra ranges from 0 degrees of Leo sign to 13 degree 20 minutes of Leo sign. Magha, the brightest and largest among the nakshatras, is represented in the night sky by a sickle-shaped group of stars. So, the sickle-shaped group of stars is also considered to be a kind of throne. It also symbolizes a throne. So, the kingly sign Leo is here starting with Magha Nakshatra, which is a royal nakshatra basically. And if you see the brightest of the stars in Magha has a visible magnitude of 1.41. So a bit lesser visual magnitude, so the brightness is more because brightness and visual magnitude are inversely proportional to each other. And this particular nakshatra Magha is also known as the little king or the little sun. And if you observe what is Magha basically in Sanskrit literature. In Sanskrit literature, Magha is nothing but mighty, the beneficent, the great, the magnificent, the most important, the bountiful, the great, the royal. These are the different words we use to describe the nature of Magha Nakshatra. So you can see what is the meaning and feeling of this particular nakshatra. Magha's main symbol is a throne. See, one can say it is a royal chamber with a throne basically. So this symbolism immediately indicates a picture of royalty, power, status, honor, and all these things related, right? And you can see this particular nakshatra's energy is royal basically. See, one important thing, Aslesha we discussed, it has struggles and turbulences, and after the struggle and turbulences of Aslesha, now in the Magha Nakshatra, it's reaping rewards, right? So that's where this nakshatra has become a royal nakshatra. And in the material realm, Magha bestows this particular rewards and this particular material gains to the native under the influence of this nakshatra through power, position, authority. And in the higher aspect, if you observe, through self-knowledge, the person can become very, very rewardful. So in a way, if you observe the body is nothing but the throne of the soul, right? So if soul wants to do anything, soul can utilize our body. So most of us identify or attach our sense of self to our minds and bodies. So Magha is the first nakshatra which relates to the individualization process. So here, individualization is the more important thing. And it represents all that we mean when we say I am going to do it. That power, that authority, that position it shows basically. See, the soul uses the body and mind as its identity. So the mind and intellect, however, are given the task to understand our true identities as eternal and everlasting souls. So, if you observe, there is no greater accomplishment with the discovery of the self. So, discovering the self is a very, very highly spiritual process. Discovering the self. See, you need to understand the self is using your mind and body, right? But what are you? Basically, you are the self. So, that kind of realization, that process of realization, knowing the self, is making Magha as a very, very authoritative and as well as a self realization nakshatra, and also discovering yourself. Discovering yourself, the self knowledge, right? So that's where the Ketu is coming into the picture, and Ketu has become the ruler of Magha Nakshatra. So, in its material aspect, if you observe, Magha can bestow all kinds of worldly honors and prestige, usually through our ability to accomplish on the material plane. And in many cases, Magha can bestow all of this as a result purely through hereditary means or some sort of succession. So when you talk about Magha Nakshatra, you talk about the hereditary, because Magha Nakshatra is related to ancestors. What you are going to carry forward from your ancestors. Whenever you're talking about Magha Nakshatra, you talk about hereditary for sure, because the deity of this nakshatra are Pitris basically. Pitris means the ancestors, right? See, in ancient times, it was implicit that the son of the king will be king and the son of a barber will be a barber. So, even though things appear different in these days, they are still pretty much the same if one looks at the full picture. Generally, a very, very rich man's son would become another rich man, most of the cases, right? And a very poor man's son would also become a poor man generally the standards on the average. Some cases when in these days the education is very much is playing a very predominant role, and when a barber's son is studying well, then he may become a kind of a very big government officer like IAS, IPS in India, and then he would become a rich person, a well educated person. So that kind of provision is given in these days, but on the average, if you observe, if you take some 1 lakh poor men, their sons or daughters would also be poor men generally, right? On the average 90%. So you can clearly see Magha's throne denotes all that we have inherited, whether it be genes, roots, property, wealth, knowledge, or status, through our parents and ancestors. What you are actually inheriting, that is Magha. So Magha is therefore the nakshatra which is most closely related to our sense of identity. See, it relates to who we are and where we are coming from. So it is mainly related to self-knowledge. The I, the picture of I, is predominant here. Who we are and what we are bringing from our ancestors. What we are basically, if you think in spiritual level, instead of materialistic or physical level, what we are basically, who are you? What are you on the basis of soul? What kind of soul you are? What are you basically? What is your soul? So this kind of self-knowledge And also, if you take it into the physical plane, then you can understand is your what are your ancestors basically. Who are you from the ancestors point of view, and who are you if you talk about in a spiritual point of view? Who are you basically, right? You, what is your soul, where it came from? So this kind of self knowledge, right, it's a kind of this kind of knowledge is a kind of mysterious, and it's the greatest knowledge. There's a divine knowledge, you can say. So that's where Ketu is becoming the deity of this particular nakshatra, not deity, sorry, the planetary ruler of this nakshatra. The deity of this nakshatra is actually the ancestors itself, the themselves. So the Pitris. So Pitris are the main ruling deity here. So it comes, very, very clear, because the world of the ancestors controls Magha Nakshatra. And we owe a lot to our ancestors in terms of our actual self-identity. And even see, without ever knowing or acknowledging it, even in the modern times, ancestors play a vital role in our lives, because that's where from we came from them basically, right? Our hereditary, everything, our inheritance, everything is actually coming from them. So ancestor worship is very, very important. When you are talking about this Magha Nakshatra, you talk about ancestors worship. And even in the ancient civilizations, even in the present, Indian in the present day also, day and age in India, yes, people pray ancestors. You see Mahalaya Amavasya, right? These are all very, very common. And even the day when your ancestors were passed away, that day also you do some kind of rituals in India, right? So the ancestor worship is very, very important according to this particular nakshatra, and it is, it's very, very important. It can be more than duty, you can say, right? By so honoring them is very, very important. So in the rural areas of countries like India, ancestor worship still remains a serious matter, right? So in fact, death rites usually involve rituals directly related to our ancestry only. Many families in India, if you observe, especially so many families you can see, right? The families who are actually following the rituals and all often trace their ancestries back to the original seven sages who were created by Brahma, right? So at the very beginning of creation, so people generally, associate themselves with the seven sages. They actually came from one of them, right? So the modern science of genetics has made it clear that most of our abilities and capabilities are dependent upon our genetic code, right? It depends upon our ancestors, and that this genetic code is basically a sort of free gift from our ancestors. And in the same way, if you observe, Magha is known for bestowing liberal favors without any expectation of return. And it is basically a nakshatra which deals with the past. We should, however, keep in mind that our ancestors are not frozen remains of the past, but are actually alive in one of you can say somewhere in the universe. They are remain, right? They are present. We believe that, and they are actually. And that's where this ancestor worship is coming into the picture. So when you talk about Magha, you talk about ancestor worship for sure. You talk about your identity. That identity, who am I? That identity, that is actually, because once your struggles are done in Aslesha, you think about, you are victorious now. You're victorious. Once you're victorious, you're on a throne, and you're thinking about yourself. Who am I? Now I'm the more powerful person. I have the power. You are in this world now, right? The Magha's energy is something like, yes, I'm the greatest. I'm the powerful. I can do anything. I'm like a king. I'm royal. Now who am I? That comes into your mind. Okay, or everything you achieved, then who are you basically? What is your soul? And who are your ancestors? Both are a kind of, you're thinking about your past, your original behavior. You're thinking about your origin, that self knowledge. That is basically Magha. Even if you see the Puranic literature, there is a heavenly realm called Pitraloka. Pitraloka means the world of ancestors. So this is the world where a lot among us go to after our physical deaths, right? So it is sort of an intermediary station where souls meet their ancestors and rest for a while and talk to them before returning to the earth for another life or moving to another lokas, whatever happens, right? Sometimes you may come to earth or you go to another loka after pitraloka. This is what we say generally. So this world of the ancestors, the pitraloka, is very much present in almost all the Puranic stories, especially among the present day, uh, you know, uh, even in original, you can see in the tribals, this kind of, uh, this kind of concept is there. India, of course, this concept is very much predominant. Everybody knows this concept. So, this world of the dead is supposed to overlook our affairs on the physical earthly realm. And, in some cases, some direct intervention and communication is experienced. Generally, this Pitraloka cannot be accessed when you are on the earth. Some people with some kind of penance or some kind of meditation techniques or you know some kind of techniques, they might have some connection with the Pitraloka being on earth also, right? But it's generally impossible, right, for a person on the earth to connect to the Pitraloka. So Magha is a nakshatra relating both to our identity in the present life and our after death journey also, right? After death journey, so you go to the Pitraloka, right? So this Pitraloka concept is very much important here, because you are basically connected to it, whether you like it or not. You are connected based on your karma. And the words you know you use whenever you talk about this Ketu Nakshatra, the Magha is a magnificent, it's a major, it's a master, right? This kind of words, magnanimous. So this kind of words we use with Magha. So it is Magha's job to shape the present using the past, because your ancestors are responsible for your present behavior, your present situation. So, wherever this nakshatra is placed in a chart, one will experience the positive effects of one's past karmas. So, where this nakshatra is present for you, which planet is present, so there you can experience some positive effects of your past karmas. So, based on your past karmas, actually, you experience something when some planet is present in Magha. So, this may manifest as opportunities or favor from those in high positions. You can say that as well. Not only the, not only the, um, you know, not only your ancestors, even the people in the higher position can also help you if some planet is in this particular nakshatra. Which planet is present in Magha is very much important, because based on that, who can help you, right? That can also be decided. So these favors, whatever favors you get from your ancestors, from Pitralokas, are you know the people in the higher positions who actually are going to help you. So these are all favors, are very very sudden. You don't know them also, and based on you know their help, you will get some great heights. You will go to some great heights as well. Is based on the planet present in Magha. If some planet is present in Magha, definitely it has to be studied very thoroughly, because that planet is going to play a very major role in gaining favors to go to higher positions, right? And the people who are going to help you are either ancestors or the people in the higher positions. So, one more important thing is this particular nakshatra is a bit fierce also because of Ketu's association. So, of course, this fierce aspect can be the fierce aspect of the sun. So, Ketu is the most fierce among all the planets. So, it's kind of the kind of energy you can see with um, this nakshatra, right? Ketu's behavior can be fierce. The kind of fierceness, because Sun is also placing a major role here, because Sun is the uh, sign lord here, Leo's lord, right? So the kind of energy here is a kind of midsummer. How you feel in the midsummer, and also how you feel in the mid afternoon in a desert. How you feel, right? That much of intensity this particular nakshatra has. So fierceness is also associated with authority at some level, right? But this fierceness, see, authority, if some people has a lot of authority, what he can do with that authority, you can see him as a magnanimous person, and the person may help others with that authority. And there is another person another with that authority. If a person has too much of authority, then how he can behave, it's something like he can behave like a merciless tyrant, right? uh, because he has a lot of power and authority, so he became merciless because he is more powerful. So the person, the Magha energy person can behave in these two ways. He can be very, very fearful, or he can be a very, very magnanimous person who can help you a lot. This kind of balance, understanding Magha, the planet present in Magha, can decide the behavior of the person, right? So, how that planet is behaving, sitting in Magha, is it making him a kind of merciless person, or it is making him a very, very great person with helping nature? That has to be studied based upon the chart. But Magha has that energy. The energy is basically authority and power. That's it. And also self knowledge and ancestors, the heritage, right? So this is all Magha basically. And it is a human nakshatra which brings out the more worldly human side associated with Ketu. It's something like you're completely given. So many things are given to you. Such kind of through ancestry, or maybe your grandfather is a great person, or your some person, right, would be a great, some person in your ancestors would be a very, very great person, and through him you got, right, and you want to protect that identity. You would be some person who is going to protect all this identity and all the stuff, your identity, right? And it's a worldly nakshatra, right, in human affairs this way. But ultimately this particular Magha energy will try to make you understand who you are also. Or you can say this particular energy would make you to protect the inheritance, your hereditary and all the stuff. So that is basically, you know uh, that is basically the Magha nakshatra. So the worldly duties, how you're going to perform, and it brings out the materially active side of Ketu, you can say. So Ketu is generally a separative planet, it's very detached and all the stuff, but it is kind of mastery also. This mastery is in the hereditary, or knowing the self knowledge. And when you know all the self knowledge, when you start thinking about you basically, see, when a poor person does not have any money, his most of his day would go in earning money and all the stuff. He may not have much time to think about all this. Of course he would think about God, spirituality and all this stuff for a bit of time, 1 hour or 2 hours or mostly 3 hours, but remaining time he has to work for his money and all the stuff, right? So it's something like you are filled, you are given so many things, and now you start thinking about, then in that way you will think about spirituality and your identity, your ancestors, and all this. So that's where this Ketu is given the predominance here. That's how it is actually made as a planetary ruler. So it is basically, this nakshatra has a high degree of idealism, right? Even when surrounded by worldly attainments as well. So because Ketu is an idealistic planet when functioning in its solar aspect, right? It is very, very idealistic, because Ketu's energy sitting in the royal power somewhere, right? The Leo starting, right? So Ketu is also a naturally rebellious planet, and you can see this nakshatra is directly related to all types of revolts against authority as well, right? So basically, this nakshatra is very powerful. That is the fundamental thing. It has a power and authority. It has, the ancestry or inheritance or hereditary. This kind of energy is flowing in this Ketu's energy, in this Magha nakshatra. This is the whole pure energy that you experience. That is the area. It's something like you go to some kind of shoe shop, then you only observe all shoes, right? You don't observe any kind, you don't see any clothes or anything. When you go to a clothes shop, you only observe clothes. When you go to Magha's world is this. You can see authority, you can see the power, the rebelliousness, right? And you can also see thinking about the ancestors, hereditary, inheritance, identity. So this is the world of Magha. So this is a nakshatra connected to the maintenance aspect of nature as well. It's something like, see, its primary impulse, if you observe, it is basically, it is maintaining the inheritance, right? See, somebody in your heritage, somebody in your ancestors, let us say, is a big family, and one grandfather with a lot of fame and name and everything. So there is no person after that generation, there is no person who is actually taking his inheritance or hereditary, the name and fame to the public and all. But let us say in the next generation, or in the next generation, there is a person with prominent Magha is born. That person is going to take this particular inheritance and hereditary to the world. He introduces again the hereditary. He protects that hereditary. That's what I want to say. That is Magha basically. So they have this kind of ability to maintain. That's where the nakshatra has the power to maintain. It has the maintenance aspect of nature. The primary goal is maintaining. So maintaining, whether it can be established traditions or established organizations or established civilizations or anything, somewhere it is established by somebody. So this Magha person is going to maintain it. He can maintain it very, very powerfully. He has that natural ability to maintain, So this is usually the function of those in positions of authority. They actually maintain everything. So it is showing the maintenance aspect of nature. The maintaining the already established somewhere in the past, and after some generation, Magha person is born, he is going to maintain. Or Magha person went to a big organization, well established, and now he is going to organize it. He is going to become a CEO or a powerful person, and he is going to maintain it. So that is the ability of Magha. That position can be achieved through Magha's energy. And natives with Magha rising, if you see, they also have this kind of energy. So whenever, generally speaking, it's not with everybody, but generally Magha people have a kind of noticeable nose, a big nose, you can say. So their power lies in covering up weaknesses through reservedness. That is also there. So Magha person may have some weakness, but he may cover that weakness with some kind of reservedness. That is also Magha's energy, right? So this is about Magha. We'll talk about this nakshatra more in future videos. Thanks for watching this video.